Welcome into Free For All. I'm Jeff Kolb. A lot to get to tonight. As the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues, we'll hear what one of Russia's most prominent athletes right now is saying about it. In Florida, still no agreement to end Major League Baseball's lockout. Jared Sandler joins the show in a moment with what he thinks it might take to reach a deal. And how about them Stars? Dallas is surging since late January. The Ticket's Bruce Levine is in with why you should be over the moon about the Stars' core of young playmakers. But first up, the Mavericks back in action tonight for the first time since the NBA's All-Star break. A crucial game for Dallas at Utah. The Mavs coming in a game and a half back of the Jazz for fourth place in the West. Pick it up first quarter. Luka Doncic dropping dimes. The Mavericks were hot too. They started 7 for 7 in this game, and the Mavs would win the first quarter by 3. Second quarter, new Mav Davis Bertans, not just a spot-up shooter, creates his own shot there with the step-back 3. He had 17 off the bench. Third quarter, another Doncic dime. This one up to Dwight Powell for the dunk and one. Dwight with a big game tonight, 22 points, puts Dallas up 7. Fourth quarter, Jazz up 1. Luka, clutch, had 23. Mavs back in front with that, but the Jazz would keep on coming. They're always tough on their home court. Final minute, Rudy Gobert, a key tip-in, and the Mavs fall short of a key win over the Jazz, losing 114 to 109. Switching gears to baseball now, there is still no new collective bargaining agreement between Major League Baseball and its players' union. And if a deal isn't reached by Monday, MLB says it will begin canceling games. Opening day is scheduled to be on March 31st, but both sides have been meeting every day this week, and yet there does not seem to be much progress getting made. It's the first lockout baseball has gone through since the 1994-95 season. Even if an agreement is reached, there, of course, will still need to be several weeks of spring training before the big league schedule could start. Jared Sandler is one of the radio voices for the Rangers. He does play-by-play and studio hosting throughout the season on 105.3 The Fan. Jared, great to have you back on Free For All, although I wish it was under better circumstances, of course, with Major League Baseball. Tell me, what are you and other people in the baseball world feeling right now, knowing MLB is here on the brink of possibly canceling ball games?
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating. Thanks for having me, Jeff. It's always great talking to you. First of all, I feel for the fans, right? You know, eventually this is all going to get sorted out, but, you know, I hate this for the fans. And then there are a lot of people who don't have a voice here. They're not represented either by the union or obviously, you know, they're not among the group of owners, and, you know, they're jobs that could be lost or furloughs or money lost. And so I feel bad for those people, too. You know, hopefully things can get sorted out as quickly as possible, and baseball can resume its normal activity, you know, get as much of spring training as possible, and then, you know, hopefully still play 162 games. I know we're nearing kind of that point of no return where the season's going to be, you know, anything less than 162. I still think there's a little bit of a window for that to still be maintained, and I just hope that we're able to get as much baseball as possible, and this thing gets sorted out as soon as possible. But Jeff, I'd normally be in Arizona getting ready to call a spring training game. I think I could be wrong. I think today would have been the first spring training game for the Rangers, and it's certainly a little bit different still being in DFW and not being in Surprise.
Yeah, crazy to think spring training's being derailed this year, and of course we know what happened in 2020. With this lockout, Jared, there are a lot of particulars here, and the concepts can get a little bit involved, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is this is about money. We know that. So let me ask you this. Is there an obvious issue that if it gets solved, you think a deal will likely get done pretty quickly, or is it just not that simple?
Yeah, well, I guess both, right? I think there is one big issue that seems to maybe be the lead domino, and that's the competitive balance tax, essentially the luxury tax that would be applied on the high end. You know, no one in baseball wants to use the word salary cap, but a tax that would penalize teams for spending over a certain amount. But then also the players really want there to be some sort of a spending floor that makes sure that teams will reach a certain amount of dollars spent on players. And a lot of these issues directly or indirectly are related to tanking. The whole dynamic of tanking just isn't great for the sport, and I think both sides agree on that. But when money gets involved, it's never an easy handshake agreement. And I think that's starting with the competitive balance tax, where the biggest issue exists. And once that gets solved, I think other dominoes will begin to fall.
Over the last few years, Jared, obviously a lot of focus has been put on the state of baseball, improving pace of play, trying to maintain a growing interest in the game. Big picture, how detrimental do you think a prolonged lockout right now would be to the future of baseball?
It's a great question. And, I think that, sure, you're going to have the fringe fans who are going to be turned off by what's going on and maybe choose one of the other million entertainment options during the summer when, there isn't a lot of activity in the other sports. I think the big baseball fans are going to stay big baseball fans. I think baseball is a sport that needs to get younger in its fan base, and they certainly need to grow the fan base. And so when you have a lockout, it's just pretty simple. Just plain as can be. If there's no baseball, there's no offseason, there's nothing that's going on, you can't really gain fans. There's not anyone during this time that's thinking, man, this disagreement between the two sides is awesome. I'm now a baseball fan.
In hopes that we might see baseball again someday, let's wrap on a Rangers note here. Obviously, back in December before the lockout, no team spent more in free agency than the Rangers did. We saw the 10-year, $325 million deal for shortstop Corey Seager, the 7-year, $175 million deal for Marcus Semien to be the new second baseman. Whenever the games do start, Jared, knock on glass here, how much better should the Rangers fans expect this team to be?
Well, and I'll tell you this too, Jeff, the Rangers might not be done, and there might be a mad dash whenever this lockout ends in free agency and with trades. And the Rangers have been linked to some notable players, including DFW's own Clayton Kershaw, right, who is available. I just think that this team, record aside, is going to be much more enjoyable to watch because there's going to be a lot more hope. There's going to, there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think this year will be a springboard to even better things in 2023.
He's Jared Sandler. I certainly hope we'll hear you calling some Rangers games here sooner than later. Thanks, my friend, as always, for coming back on Free for All.
Yeah, no kidding, Jeff. Thanks so much for having me.
Up next, a deep dive into the young guns that have the Dallas Stars on a tear. Bruce Levine breaks that down next on Free for All. Welcome back to Free for All now. I'm joined by my good friend, Bruce Levine. You hear him, of course, before and after Stars games on the ticket. Bruce, great to have you back on the show, sir.
Jeff, always nice to be back. Someday, I hope we will be in the studio.
I hope that day comes soon. I certainly do. So, Stars off tonight, right? At the moment, they are in the hunt for a playoff spot, right on the fringe of that wild card race in the West. Certainly, as we know, trending in the right direction. When you look at the record since January 18th, Dallas 10-4-1. Bruce, what are you seeing right now that you really like from this Stars team? And is there something that makes you feel this hot streak will last?
Well, there are two things I like to see right now about the Dallas Stars. First and foremost is goaltending. Jake Ottinger has taken the reins and has run with it. He is the Dallas Stars' #1 goaltender right now and for the foreseeable future and probably for the long-term future. The other thing you like to see is secondary scoring has shown up in games when the Dallas Stars win. Tyler Seguin, most notably, has been the most prominent guy to find his skating legs in the second half of the season. He's got 16 points in 16 games, his last 16 games. It really took a whole lot longer for him to get recovered from the surgery and the rehab he went through last year. But we're seeing shades of the Tyler Seguin that we know and love, and the Stars can count on him. If he can continue to get secondary scoring, they'll be okay.
You mentioned Seguin. He's obviously one of the top veterans on this squad. I want to talk about the young guns that are really giving the Stars a lot right now. You mentioned Ottinger. We'll talk about him more in a moment. But in front of him right now, 3 of your top 5 point getters are 25 years or younger. Jason Robertson, Roope Hintz, and Miro Heiskanen. Bruce, how excited should Stars fans be about the future of that trio on this team?
Well, they should certainly be very excited about Robertson, Hintz, and hopefully Pavelski signing next year. He's an unrestricted free agent. So I think you'll have the Stars' top line back if everything works out. Rope Hintz is a speed guy, just so good, so talented, puts himself in position to score goals, can do it with his skill, can do it with his speed. Fantastic. Jason Robertson is more of an IQ guy. He knows how to put himself in position to score. He knows how to put himself in position to make plays. He is going to be something good for a long, long time. And then there's Miro Heiskanen, who's had a bit of a scoring slump, hasn't scored a goal in more than 20 games, but he is the long-term future of the Dallas Stars defense. Eventually, these three will be the core that the Stars fans look at to bring victories and hopefully a cup to Dallas if they can't get the job done this year.
Ottinger, as we already mentioned, he's 23 years old, Bruce. Phenomenal here in year 2. Right now ranked 6th in the league in goals against per game, tied for 7th in save percentage. How surprising has his assertion here to be the top guy been for this Stars organization?
It's been surprising, and it's been a godsend for the team. You think about where this team would be if Ottinger had not made the step up. It would be a very difficult climb to the playoffs. Remember, out of training camp, Ottinger got sent down to the AHL because he did not have a very good start to the season. However, he worked hard, got himself brought back up, and has seized the moment. Jake Ottinger has been so steady, and the biggest thing you notice is his maturity. He doesn't bite on the first move. He doesn't overextend himself, get out of position. He's calm and cool in the net. He plays his angles, and he has lightning-fast reflexes. You like what you're seeing out of him, and as I said, he is the #1 goalie right now, and for the long-term future, it is Otter in the net.
Real quick before we have to go, Bruce, Thursday the Stars announced they're creating a Team Hall of Fame. First 9 inductees, I believe, will be announced in August, then enshrined in the fall. You will be a member of the selection committee for that. How much of an honor is that for you, and why is this just a no-brainer for the organization?
Well, first of all, it's a huge honor for me. When I got the call asking if I would be on it, they asked if you wanted to think about it, and I was like, no, I don't have to think about it. Yeah, I'm in. We hope to honor not just the guys who are the no-brainers, but the guys who are behind the scenes and the guys on the ice who may not be hanging up there with Modano, Letton, and Zubov, but added a whole lot to this organization and the history of hockey in North Texas.
Bruce Levine, thanks as always, my friend, for coming back on the show.
Jeff, anytime you want me, I'm happy to come on.
Athletes are voicing off about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, including Russia's Alexander Ovechkin. What Ovi is saying next on Free For All.
Please, no more war. You know, it doesn't matter who's in the war, Russia, Ukraine, in different countries. I think we live in a world like we have to live in peace. And
that was Washington Capitals superstar Alexander Ovechkin, who is Russian, calling today for an end to the invasion of Ukraine. He's not the only Russian athlete making that plea right now. Tennis star Andrei Rublev wrote, "No war, please," on a camera Friday after winning his tennis match. Last night, we saw in the NBA, Sacramento and Denver holding a moment of silence and showing solidarity, locking arms with Kings center Alex Len, who is from Ukraine, and Hall of Fame boxing brothers Vitaly and Vladimir Klitschko, who are Ukrainian, are asking for support now for their country. Vitaly, the mayor of Ukraine's capital city, Kyiv, saying they're willing to personally fight for their country if that is ultimately what it comes down to. Those are the voices of the sports world we're hearing speak out about this latest global story. All of them, Ukrainian, Russian, or otherwise, pleading for peace. That is the power of sport on full display. Our time tonight is up. Thanks again to my guests, Jared Sandler and Bruce Levine, for joining me. And thank you, as always, for watching Free For All. I'm Jeff Cole. Good night.